What's up, gamers? I have what I think is going to be a pretty short and sweet review for you today on the Powkiddy RGB10 Max 3. Where they come up with these names, I will never know. But this device is one that I think could be for you, even though I have some conflicting thoughts on it for myself. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so I want to start today by talking about the build quality of this device because I actually think that it's pretty good. I like the color a lot. This is supposed to be the orange, but it's really not orange at all. It's more like a mac and cheese orange, right? So it's mostly yellow, but it has this tinge of orange to it. But I like it. I also like a lot of the other colors that they have. They have a really nice transparent blue. Some of the transparent colors are actually some of my favorites that I've seen in any retro handheld device. The plastic here feels really nice and thick. It feels very sturdy. I can't like squeeze it in or whatever. Like it feels like it's built really well. Like there's a higher quality, thicker plastic here. Everything is also cut really well on this device. There are no buttons, especially on the face of the device, where I feel like, oh, that's cut too small, or the hole's cut too big, or the buttons are too small. Like the D-pad doesn't wiggle a lot. I really like that. The buttons don't like scrape the sides as you're pressing them down, but they also don't wiggle around very much either. It just is all nice and tight and cut really well. The screen sits really nice and flush with the face of the device. It's down in here perfectly. Even start and select don't feel too loose. I also like that this device has grips on the back of it. I really appreciate that, even though I don't find them particularly functional. And what I mean by that is they're almost not big enough to matter, but I'll get to that more in just a second because I would rather have them than not have them. But it also bothers me that it makes it sit like, instead of sitting flush on the table like this, it makes it sit like this. It's tilted down like this, basically. And I know that that's silly, but I can't help it. I don't like looking at it like this on the table. It feels like, it makes it feel like the games are all gonna spill out of the device somehow, like it's a glass that's been knocked over, and that just really bothers me. Now, while most of the buttons I feel like aren't too loud, there's a reasonable volume, start and select don't fit that mold. They are extremely loud. I mean, that's going to wake somebody up, whoever's around. If you're traveling with this and you're in a hotel and you got other people, you can't play this after they go to sleep. If you like to play in bed at night next to your spouse, this is probably going to disturb them. Start and select are just too loud, and most of the time you have to use those to exit the game that you're playing, if not to just access the menu in the game itself. And even though the shoulder buttons are relatively quiet, the bumpers have a little bit of click to them, but it's not terrible. Even though they're pretty quiet, they rattle a lot. So, I said that the buttons were cut pretty well, and that's probably maybe a little bit of the one exception. They do fit well, but they just have enough wiggle room that they rattle. The face buttons and the D-pad actually all feel really good to me. I actually like this D-pad a lot, and it has more tension, more resistance than most Powkiddy devices I've played before, and I really like that. It feels very good. The face buttons, again, are quiet. They have a nice mush to them. These are all rubber membrane buttons and D-pad. Those all feel great. And even the sticks, though they are recessed and I feel like they could give us a little more range of motion, they're okay in practice. But here's the thing about the build quality, and this might be a hot take. When I unboxed this in my unboxing video, I said I don't like holding this. It's uncomfortable. But by the end of the video, I had changed my mind. I had adjusted to it, I had gotten used to it, and then I said, you know what, this isn't as bad as I thought. But now I've been playing this for a month, and every time I pick it up, I go through the same process of thinking, I don't like holding this, but then after 10 or 15 minutes, I get used to it and I'm fine. But now it's to the point where I'm almost nervous to pick this up again because I don't like the initial feeling of how this holds, and I think it is because of how these sides are tapered. How instead of going out at an angle, it curves in where my palms want to rest. And so even though it has grips back here, I find myself doing this a lot and gripping it with these grips in the back with my middle fingers, but my wrists the angle that my wrists are tilted at makes it really uncomfortable to push the buttons. And I just want it to be, you know, keep my wrist straight with my arm instead of having to bend it back like this. It's just not comfortable. Now, again, I get used to it, but that initial pickup of just not liking this is really hard for me to get over. And the more times it happens, the less I want to pick up this device. I don't know if that makes any sense. And again, it might be a hot take. I've watched a lot of other reviews from people like Aiden Walls, and they all talk about how comfortable this is, but I just do not like it. Or rather, I don't like starting the process of liking it over every time I pick it up. Now, if you have one of these already and you're watching this, I'm sorry if that offends you. I really am. But I have to be honest for my videos to maintain integrity and value. And you wouldn't leave a mean comment, would you, Dave? Just because I'm being honest? I mean, seriously, Dave, come on. And I really hope you'll show me some grace in that honesty. So Wavy Dave 389, please leave a comment, but stay kind about it. Now, one of the standout features I think of this handheld is the display. We have a 1280 by 720 display here. It's a 5-inch IPS display. It has great contrast and great color saturation. However, I've found it to be just adequately bright indoors. Some games are almost even too dim. Now, I saw Retro Game Core's review and he really praised the display as being bright even outdoors, but that hasn't been my experience. I'm not sure if he was just lucky or if I was unlucky, or maybe we got different displays from different manufacturers or something. But even though I've enjoyed the display indoors, there have been times when I thought this should be a little brighter. But I think even off camera, you can see just how gorgeous these colors are and how the blacks are very deep and rich. It really does look quite fantastic. Performance wise, they claim that they get 8+ hours of battery life for this 4000 milliamp hour lithium battery. Now, I didn't get that, and even just sitting here holding this with the menu system up for the last 15 minutes or so, I've lost about 7% battery. I also have mostly played 3D games at full screen brightness, so obviously that has impacted the battery life significantly. Performance wise, other than the battery, there's really not a lot of surprises here. The same games that struggle on every RK3566 chipset and other handhelds on other systems, they struggle here as well. PSP is a mixed bag, although when it works, it looks fantastic on this 16:9 display. N64 is a mixed bag as well. Dreamcast seems to work okay for the most part, although at times it will use a frame skip. And while Sega Saturn works okay as well, you know, Sega Saturn emulation always seems to have a little bit of trouble, and that's no different here. And before you ask, no, there is no PS2 or GameCube or Vita or 3DS emulation on this device. Performance of 2D games is obviously going to be stellar here. You're not going to have any problem with those, so any of your 8 and 16-bit systems are going to work really well. Sound quality is average. It could be improved if they had forward-facing speakers, but we get these downward-firing speakers. Once again, please, everybody, stop doing that. It drives me insane. Now, this does come with GelOS installed on the system, and GelOS is still one of my favorite firmwares for these devices, and it's no different here, and I've been very happy with that, except for one thing, and that is, again, just the charging. The charging just is finicky. You can try to charge with it turned off. Sometimes it does hit, it might not. I don't like it's just really weird how the charging works with these devices, even when you're using the proper cable. But other than that, GelOS is great, and this device has no real issues. So who is this for? I really like that artwork, by the way. The Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers together. I mean, it's so cool. But who is this for? Okay, so if you already have a device that is an RK3566 chipset device, I don't think there's any reason to warrant an upgrade here. This isn't an upgrade at all, unless you just absolutely have to have this nice 5-inch widescreen display. There's no reason to upgrade to this device. If you've never owned a retro handheld and you're wanting something that's under $100, this is a really solid choice that you can often find around $80 or $90, if not less. Would I recommend this over the Anbernic RG35XXH? That's tough. The H is a little cheaper, but this has a bigger screen. The screen does look nice, and I like Jello S, so I'm going to say yes? Question mark? Yes, this would probably be my sub $100 recommendation. Unless you need your device to be very pocketable, then I wholeheartedly recommend the RG35XXH. But this is my conundrum with this device is just that there's nothing particularly deal-breaking here, and this could be the device for a lot of people. I just may not be one of them. And again, for me, it mostly comes down to the shape of this device and how it makes my wrists want to bend in like this. And I understand that that's totally a personal preference. So if you know that that's not going to bother you, then this is probably a great device, a great choice for you. But what about you? I really do want to know what you like or dislike about the RGB10 Max 3. Let me know in the comments below, and show me a kindness by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. Maybe even consider becoming a channel member if you enjoy my content. But until next time, stay kind and encouraging out there, and I'll catch you on the flippity flip.